Oh, hey, yeah, are you open? Yeah? Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I'd like to order. Yeah, I'd like one with everything.
Oh, Daddy,
Yeah, make me one with
Daddy,
everything.
Daddy, Daddy,
Namaste to you too.
Daddy,
Huh? What?
Daddy. Mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Mushrooms.
Extra mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Right. You deliver, right? Good. All right, great. Hello there, good people. Today is Friday, March 17th, 2020. I'm standing here in front of the first of my mushroom propagation beds. A 9 square foot area that I've filled up with wood chips, packed with wine cap mushroom spawn, and planted with some clover and borage. It currently has some maple seeds decomposing on the surface of it. That's no matter. I'm here about to make 2 more mushroom propagation beds just like this one, but I have something extra that I'm going to add on this batch. I have some oyster spawn, oyster mushrooms that is, to put into the new beds. Let's have a look at them and I'll show you what I'm doing. Alright, let's have a look at what we've got here. These are the mushroom beds made out of cinder blocks. The blocks are 16 inches from one end to the other and 8 inches deep. And I only need about 6 inches worth of material to make a mushroom bin. I've already filled one of those with wood chips. And the way I put these together, I used a half block at one point so that I could use the same wall for 2 separate bins. Alright, let's go ahead and fill this one up and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing here today. Alright, so both the wine cap mushrooms and the oyster mushrooms enjoy a diet of things like wood chips, particularly softwood chips. Softwoods, not pine or cedar, but a variety of other softish hardwoods. They also like straw and, well, pretty much everything, really. Unlike the usual mushrooms that you see for sale at the grocery store, those are grown on manure. I didn't want to use manure, so oyster and wine cap mushrooms. Perfect, right? Now I only need to start out with about 2 inches on the bottom. So I'm just spreading these around, about 2 inches thick on the bottom. Just like so. Did I mention that I was going to put oyster mushroom spawn in here today? I can't remember if I did or not. Okay, here we go. Alright, there we go. We have about 2 inches worth of wood chips on the bottom. Let's go get some spawn and put that in there. Well, alright then. So I've got my beds prepared, ready for the mushroom spawn, and I have 2 varieties. Here's the wine cap mushroom spawn here. And I've already taken the liberty of breaking the sawdust that spawn was grown on up so I can easily dispense it. The other variety is Italian oyster mushrooms. Now, typically if you're growing Italian oyster mushrooms, or really any kind of oyster mushrooms, these are usually grown indoors in a more controlled environment where you can keep track of the temperature, the humidity, and things of that nature. But they do work just fine in an outdoor setting as well, like this, so that's what we're going to do. The difference between oyster and wine cap, there are a lot of differences between oyster and wine cap mushrooms. But the main difference that I'm interested in is the fruiting temperature. Oyster mushrooms like a little bit warmer temperature to fruit. The wine cap mushrooms will fruit at a lower temperature. So, between these two, I should have some kind of mushroom coming up out of these beds at any given time for most of the year. And I kind of want that. Now, in an indoor setting, the substrate would be sterilized properly before adding the mushroom spawn. Since I am not doing that in this setting, not everything that comes up is going to be an oyster mushroom or a wine cap mushroom. There will be other species that will come up as well. I'll just have to rely upon my good old eyeballs and my common sense to tell the difference between a mushroom that I want to eat and a mushroom that I don't want to eat. Although most of the ones that are going to be coming up out of here would be edible. Yeah. In any case, the primary purpose of these guys is not to give me mushrooms, although that would be a nice thing. Their primary purpose is to break down these wood chips, decompose them in the primary stages so that they can become good food for my earthworms, which will become in turn good food for my plants. And that's my ultimate goal here. Let's go ahead and get this stuff measured out. Now, the amount of spawn to use is about a 1/4 cup per square foot. So, if I want this to be half oyster and half wine cap mushroom, then I want, let's see, I have 18 square feet, so 18 1/4 cups. But I don't really want 18 1/4 cups at all, do I? I want to spread this up so it's half and half. So I want 9 1/4 cups for the 2 beds, or approximately 2 cups, a little bit over. I've got a cup measure here to do that. That smells pretty good. Let's get this working up a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to fill this measuring cup all the way to the top. Since there's about 1/8 of a cup of space at the very top after the last mark, that's going to give me dropping stuff. About there. 9 cups, or enough to inoculate 1 bed fully. I'll spread this out amongst the 2 beds, so I have 2 different varieties of mushrooms growing at the same time in the same space. Alright, so I'm going to take the contents of this bucket and divide it into half, approximately. There's half there, and half over there. Alright, and we'll just sprinkle the spawn in a line here, some more in a line there, a little bit more here. There we go. So I have 4 strips spaced a little bit apart running down of the wine cap mushroom. Let's get the next bed. Some spawn there. Some there. Here. And some more spawn here. Alright, there we go. That is our wine cap mushroom spawn. Now let's go ahead and get our oyster mushroom ready to go. Okay, So this is a 5.5 pound bag of oyster mushroom spawn, Italian oyster, and wow, this is just really loaded with mycelium. It's ready to go. That is really, really nice. The company that made this is called North Spore. They're out in Maine. They're open for business right now. You should go check them out. This was $22 for the 5.5 pound bag. A quarter cup covers a square foot. So you can get a lot of coverage of mushroom spawn for a small amount of money, relatively speaking. And they are shipping right now. Go check them out. Now, before you can use this, you have to break it up. It's almost like a brick. Little fungal hyphae inside, grown together really well. Oh wow. It is like a brick. Tough stuff. I think I recall reading somewhere there's some people experimenting with using mushroom mycelia as a building material, if you can imagine. Mushroom. Okay, once again, the ratio is about a quarter cup per square foot. So 2 of these measuring cups. See, that has a little bit different smell than the wine cap mushroom spawn. 2 of these measuring cups all the way to the top should be enough. There we go, heaping cup. And another heaping cup. So I'm looking into this sawdust spawn, and I see little tiny grains. I think that's millet probably in there. So that was probably the grain that the spawn was originally grown on before it was introduced to the bag to inoculate the bag full of sawdust to create a large amount of spawn that I can spread out and use in the garden. As you can see, I've got plenty of spawn left to work with, so I'm going to put this over to the side. It really is warm. Now we're going to take the spawn in the bucket and we're going to spread this out in the garden. Okay, there's my bucket full of mushroom spawn. Let's go sprinkle it about. Now exactly the same as the wine cap spawn, only this time we're going to be occupying a little bit different space. I'm going to take my mushroom spawn for the oyster mushrooms, and we're just going to sprinkle it in a couple of strips, like so. And at some point, yes, we're going to have oyster mushroom and wine cap mushroom interacting with each other. Hopefully they get along. Wine cap mushroom is very forgiving about sharing its space with other types of mushrooms. So hopefully they will play nice together. There we go. Now let's get the other bed. And here in the other bed, just sprinkling some of that mushroom spawn into spaces that I have not already got mushroom spawn, just like so. Alright, there we go. Alright, now that both of those beds have been inoculated with the mushroom spawn, it's time to cover them up with another 2 to 3 inches of wood chip mulch. So I've got my handy dandy manure fork here, which is not for manure, but it is for mulch, and we'll get those topped off, and then we'll move on to the next step of today's operation, which will be planting a cover crop into the top of the wood chips. Fun, fun. looking up. Now I've got the mushroom beds inoculated with the mushroom spawn. We're ready to move on to our step 2 of the process, where I plant a cover crop in them. And I do that for a couple of reasons. First off, I want to provide a bit of a shade covering over the soil surface, actually the wood chip surface, and a cover crop will help to do that. The second reason is the cover crop specifically helps me out. For example, I've got borage here for potassium. I don't happen to need any phosphorus. I've got plenty of phosphorus in the soil already, but if I needed phosphorus, I would plant amaranth as well. Borage from Outside Pride, these germinate pretty well. Then I have from Seed Ranch some inoculated with the Rhizobium bacteria clover, Dutch white clover. Pretty good stuff. This germinates pretty well as well. And to spread it out, I know you guys have seen this before, but to spread it out, I'm using an old salt shaker that no longer has any salt in it, of course. It does have a slug. It's been outside. Yeah. Using an old salt shaker. Watch this go disastrous, right? Just pour some of the clover seed in there. This is about 5 pounds when I started a year or two ago. I planted an awful lot of clover. It's good stuff. It's good for your garden. Here we go. This helps with the nitrogen. Clover, like peas and beans and other leguminous plants, has an association with a bacteria that forms nodules on the roots. The bacteria will take the nitrogen from the air and feed it to the plant. The plant will photosynthesize and feed sugars to the bacteria, so it's a symbiotic relationship. Some of that nitrogen is available to your other plants or your mushrooms in this particular case. So I'm just going to sprinkle them on like so. And we're also going to need some of these borage seeds. The borage is a little bit too large to be sprinkled out of the salt shaker, but I'm just going to sprinkle a few of these around in the bed. They get fairly large whenever they grow, so I will eventually thin them out to just about 3 or 4, maybe 5 at the most, borage plants. Borage can also be used as a vegetable. Tastes a bit like fresh cucumber in a salad, incidentally, if you wanted a cucumber substitute. Let me get the other bed prepared. Alright, now to finish up, I'm just going to take my rake and work over the surface to make sure that my seeds are not just sticking out on the surface. I'm just going to massage them in just a little bit. Okay, so those larger plants that you see popping up, there's a big one there, a bunch of them right there, one there. The big ones, that is borage, and the small stuff right next to it, that is clover. And both borage and clover are known to have very deep roots. So this bed is a total of 8 inches from the top to the bottom, and the roots of the clover and the borage are going to sink down through that 8 inches of mulch reach the soil down below, and they should do just fine growing in this space. But this is after about a week or two after planting them. It's been a little chilly, so they haven't really gotten really huge, but a lot of them have germinated and they're growing up in the space. So I expect to see that happening here in these 2 beds. Okay, so I'm now going to sprinkle about a bit of bentonite clay. This is a silica hydrate. You need a certain amount of clay content in your soil. Now, if I was living in the Amazon basin a few thousand years ago, I might be using broken bits of pottery to introduce the silica hydrate. Of course, they have a very good sort of a yellow clay to start out with. Actually, yellow is probably not a fantastic clay as far as minerals go for building soil with, but that's what they had. In this case, I have almost no clay, so I have to bring some in. And I'm just using some bentonite. Right there. And yeah, it's cat litter. Ordinary, plain, unscented cat litter. It is just pure crushed bentonite clay. That's all it is. Of course, now that I've got this initial soaking process taken care of, I just need to monitor my rainfall. If I get a few inches per week, that should be enough to maintain this. We want it to stay moist but not soaking wet. On weeks where I don't get much in the way of rainfall, I can come back and give these beds a quick soak about once a week. Although initially, I'm going to want to make sure that that surface layer stays pretty moist, at least until the seeds germinate. Once the seeds have germinated and the roots start getting down into that mixture, the roots are going to soak up some of that excess moisture as the plant grows. Now, I will need to make sure that these plants that are growing in here don't get too much sunlight. Too much sunlight, they can burn and die easily, since they are just an early cover crop. All right, there we go. 2 new mushroom propagation beds that should be producing mushrooms here in another 2 or 3 months. Certainly by fall I'll be seeing some mushrooms coming up out of here. And of course we can follow along the progress of the borage and the clover as they grow and contribute to the overall health of the soil that we're currently creating in these spaces. Hopefully, after the first flush or 2 of mushrooms begin to come out, I can introduce the earthworms to the entire operation. Those will go around consuming up the leftovers, the remains of the mycelium after they're done with their fruiting and are no longer active, as well as any of the other material that might be in there. They're going to leave their castings, enrich the soil overall, and yes, it'll take a while, but over the next few years these mushroom beds are going to produce a lot of really good, rich black soil. They'll be great for the garden. That's all I've got for you today, good people. As always, don't forget to hit the like buttons, leave your comments down below, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and bang that notification bell, and I will see you next time.